now get on with the second section, where we're going to be looking at filming. And the big difference between taking photographs and filming using your smartphone is that we now have to think about sound, recording sound, and also we have to think about the movement of the camera, whether or not the movement is all happening in front of the camera or whether or not we're actually moving the camera as well. And I think we're going to start by looking at a filmed clip of Greta Thunberg speaking at an Extinction Rebellion event. Everybody look out for the fact that this film is edited, so there are different shots that have been put together.
So everyone out there, it is now time for civil disobedience.
It is now time for civil disobedience.
It is time to rebel.
It is time to rebel.
There's a great tradition of civil disobedience in Britain and throughout the world, and I think that's what it's going to take to make the changes that we need to make to stop climate change.
We are the stories revolution comes from, and we will rise.
It's in the UK law that we need to be reducing emissions. We're not doing it. We haven't done it. It's time to put the pressure on.
Right now we are at the Declaration of Rebellion in London, and right now we are blocking a road, sitting here peacefully blocking the traffic.
There's quite a few things from looking at that. One, because the sound wasn't working, how important it is that the sound we record is as good as possible. It's almost difficult to watch things where the sound isn't really good. We can forgive quite a lot with photos, with pictures, but if you can't hear the sound, it's really, really irritating. So we need to record it really well in the first place. Did you notice that when on the original sound, some of it obviously hadn't been recorded very well, and they put subtitles at the bottom so that people could understand what was being said? And also, that film was actually probably made using different cameras, different shots, and some possibly with two people filming at once that had then been edited together, what we call cut together in an edit, which was almost certainly done on a computer, a laptop, rather than in a phone. Though it is possible to do some simple, straightforward editing in your phone. But for this session, we're going to concentrate on making what we call one-shot films and getting the best possible quality of sound. So these are films that you won't need to edit lots of pictures together, because they will make a short, superb film for social media that's going to be about half a minute to a minute long. So let's start by looking at the sound. Bear in mind that all the things we talked about in the first session, so where the light is, where the focus is, the orientation of the camera, the shot size, all using the rule of thirds. I don't know if you noticed, but they clearly use the rule of thirds for nearly all those shots. All this is just as important when we are filmmaking as when we're taking photographs. You know, every single shot needs to be as carefully thought out for a film as every photograph is, and the framing needs to be thought about in the same way. So let's have a look at sound. Now, iPhones have got quite good sound, onboard sound. Most Androids are not as good sound-wise, but if you are filming people, particularly if you're filming people in anything other than a perfectly quiet room, you are probably going to need an add-on microphone to your phone. Now, the simplest way of doing this is to get your headphones, often the headphones that come with your phone or ones that you've got subsequently. And we're looking for headphones that have got the microphone here. So they tend to be the headphones that come with your phone. This microphone, which when you've got your headphones in and you're on the phone, is picking up your voice, is actually a really not bad mic. And you can connect it to your phone and use this mic. So you're filming with your phone and you can point the mic at the direction of the person you're wanting. Wait a minute, where's mine? There you go. And you will get much, much, much better sound than if you just use the microphone on board your phone. You can actually also get purpose-made microphones that attach to your smartphone. This is a super expensive one. It's a professional one called a Sennheiser mic, and it's got a lightning connector for an iPhone. They also do them with USB-Cs, etc. You can connect them to all sorts of Android phones as well. That one, as I say, is super expensive. However,
Okay.
yeah,
Skip in. There's a clip, and it's called a lapel mic, and it can clip onto somebody's lapel.
absolutely, you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's
So
got what we call a baffle or a stock over the top of it, so that in windy conditions you will hear less wind, because the microphone picks up sound that your ears shield out. When they've been picked up by the microphone, though, your ears will hear them. So if I was to blow, you'd barely hear it. If I was to blow on the microphone, that would sound like a gale when played back. So that's why people put these little protectors on them. If you
the sound quality is so good because it's so close to your mouth, isn't it?
And if you can get these bigger ones, or you could literally put a piece of fabric around it. If you were using your headphones on a windy day, you could literally put some fabric around that, and that would help baffle the noise of the wind. This is a very cheap mic, which has got a kind of headphone socket on it, which just goes straight into your phone. These are less than $20 and are widely available. They're made in, I think they're made in China or Vietnam or somewhere in the Far East. They are really good quality compared with how little they cost. This one is a Boya, what's called lapel mic, because it can literally fit there and just be left. Has a very long cable so that your phone can be further away. But with a smartphone, you don't really want to be that far away when you're filming. You need to be as close as possible. Those can be bought from electronic shops. I don't know. It depends. Whether some of you will be able to buy this sort of thing online. You don't need it though. The quality.
It's worth saying that they worked with an iPhone when Apple put a headphone socket on the phone.
Yeah.
The moment they took that off, they made all of those microphones redundant.
You can use one of these. It works,
so,
works perfectly with a lightning converter.
So you need an adapter.
You need an adapter. And some of the modern Androids only have the one connector. So you just need one of these pin connectors.
So don't throw them away.
If you're really fancy, you can get something like this, which allows you to plug the microphone in and have a power supply going into your phone as well. That's a bit more advanced, But again, these things are very, very cheap. Comparative with the cost of a phone, they're not that bad. But don't forget, you can use the headphones. Or the other thing, if you haven't got either, is but this is no good for doing a simple clip, because you will need to use editing. You can use two smartphones. You can use one as a microphone and have it right next to the person, and you then have the phone that you're filming with. But you're going to have to edit those two things together, and that's actually quite a demanding task. That's a run through of the equipment that's available. So Rob, should I pass to you about some tips about recording sound?
Yeah, so everything that Kate said, you need to take into account. One really important thing is, if it's an interview, to do a quick recording and play it back. Because Kate's right, your ears shield from you a lot of noise, but a microphone's very sensitive. So what you thought was fine when you were recording it, you play it back and it sounds like they're in the middle of a hurricane. So you got some very simple things you can do. One is, if you've got a very interesting background, the event is going on behind you. So they're talking about something and you can see it past the head. You look at my picture now, there's plenty of space behind me. That could be a parade, that could be anything going on behind. You want to keep that. You can sometimes just move round the corner and you keep your background, but you've gone out of the direct wind. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to improve your sound if you're aware of them. Kate's mentioned, I mean, one technique that you see people doing, when we're live streaming, we're listening to what the director is telling us, and you keep one headphone socket in your ear and you extend the other one away to the person so that the microphone is much closer to them. Once you're aware of the issues, then you also start to become aware of the solutions as well. So I think that's covered most of the sound issues.
My personal favourite tip, which it also gives you good pictures, is if you are in a big echoey hall or a large room, again, the microphone will pick up the echo really strongly. So a good tip is to get your interviewee to stand facing into the corner of a room. So you, the person who is filming them, will be looking out at the whole room behind them, but their sound will be baffled, will be muffled a little bit, because they'll be talking into the corner of a room instead of talking into the whole expanse of it. So you get two good quality things there happening for the price of one. You get to see the big background behind them, but the sound is smoothed out somewhat. You lose quite a lot of the echo by getting them to talk into the corner of the room. So you, of course, would have your back to the corner of the room while you were filming them.
And the other good tip is, if you're recording indoors, if there's something which is very noisy, like an air conditioning unit or a fridge or a deep freeze, whatever it is, if it's got a very, very noisy fan, talk to the people and say, look, can we turn that off? The interview will only take 2 minutes. You know, the things in the freezer won't thaw and will start to get hotter because the air conditioning is gone, but the sound quality will improve enormously. So what I would suggest is try that for yourself. You know, go into a room, do a little quick interview sequence and listen for all the sounds, and then look around the room and track them down and turn them all off. do the same little interview again. You know, you only need a 20-second interview and listen to the difference. Amazing.
Yeah, makes a massive difference. So moving from sound and getting the best possible sound to holding the camera still, holding your phone still. When we watch films, you know, even if it's like a Hollywood movie or, you know, the most expensive big budget production, the vast majority of the shots are what we call static. So the camera itself is not moving. There's action happening in front of it, but the camera itself is not moving. There's a reason for this, which is that unless you've got massive, massive budgets and have got computer controlled motion controls, you can't put two moving shots together when you come to edit a film together, because we all rely on a code of grammar called the grammar of film when we're putting films together. And we are all completely across what rules are allowed and not allowed when we're putting films together. The only thing is we don't know how to apply those rules when we come to make a film, but we definitely notice when we're watching a film whether or not they have obeyed the rules when they've been putting the film together. And one of the most basic rules is you can't put two moving shots together because it upsets the eye, it makes you feel sick, it doesn't make any sense to your brain. So if there's a shot that's going like this, and then the next shot is going like this, you can't put those two together without a buffer of the camera being still. Or the camera, maybe if the camera is panned, it's then stationary for a second or so before the next moving shot can be put next to it. So we need to learn to be able to keep this camera as still as possible. Now, it's quite difficult to use this camera when we're holding it with both hands and we're trying to use the controls and we're trying to keep it still. Fortunately, very clever people have come up with some very cheap and simple solutions. A selfie stick will do if you've got nothing else, because that will clip onto your phone and you can hold it. That's quite a simple thing. This, which is considerably less than $10, I think this one in fact was about $5. It's a phone holder. It's got this very important screw at the bottom, which we all know, Bob and I were saying beforehand, we know it is a tripod screw. All photographic equipment worldwide uses this screw to go into tripods and things. So these have one of these on them. This
in every camera case, every camera you buy has that on the bottom.
That's
every
on the bottom.
camera.
Yeah. So this one, you just screw this in, tighten it up, and then I could add, this is a monopod. It goes to full length. And so I could, if I close all the things up, there we go. Attach this to this, and then I can use my phone with one hand. And it's also, if I stand it on the floor, it will hold my camera much steadier than I can by holding it. And I can walk around holding it like this, and it's much more steady and much easier to do than trying to hold my camera like this. It's also got that little screw on the top, so I could put all sorts of, I could put a light or something on it if I really wanted to, though I must confess. There's another holder, yeah?
An alternative is a tripod. And tripods are really useful. But with our kind of filming, what you've got to think about is if things turn nasty and you've got to scarper, you're much better off with your monopod, because you can run off with your monopod with your camera firmly attached to the top, whereas a tripod is much more difficult to handle. So invariably, it's a good tool, but not necessarily as versatile.
This is a really good thing. This frame, again, less than $10 at the moment. You put your camera in, you can hold it like this and brace yourself against it. Again, it's got lots of things. So you could put you could tape or use a special attachment and put your microphone there, or a light or something. Again, it fits to your tripod. I've actually got a little handle on it because I quite like using it like this. It also makes you look a bit more official. It looks more like you're filming, which could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's very easy to hold it really nice and still like this, and you can just, use your phone with one hand. So I really urge you to think about how you're going to hold your camera as still as possible. And I think you were going to talk about moving it.
Moving the camera?
Yeah.
Any camera movement has got to be slow and steady, and with, as Kate indicated earlier, with very expensive productions. Now, I have to say, the most expensive productions in the world are advertising. Second for second, pound for pound, they spend more money on the 30 seconds to 45-second advert than they do on a multi-million-dollar budget for a feature film. But they have enormous machines that can move in this direction, that direction, as Kate said, with computer control. So it's very smooth and follows the action. But we can emulate what they can do with that with our handheld camera, and Kate's very nifty frame helps you to do that, to do nice smooth movements, or as smooth as you can get them, and make your film look more professional, but without costing an arm and a leg.
Try and move in slow motion, because if you think I want to get from there to there, and you might just do that, you make your audience sick because it looks like they've whizzed from there to there. You need to really smoothly move and slowly. So all motions, think about them as slow motion. So that's moving from one side to the other is called a pan. Moving too fast is called a whip pan. And you will just see a blur. It's not very nice. This is called a tilt. And the up and down movements. So those are the basic movements. If you are using a tripod, you can kind of control them more carefully, these movements. Most tripods have this pan and tilt. The other great things that these have, incidentally, is a hand strap. So if somebody tries to grab your camera, you've got a moment or two to actually grab it back. And if you start to drop it, it's attached to your wrist. That's always a useful thing to attach, even if it's not got one attached. So movements need to be slow motion.
If you look at some of these amateur video footage, people.
Bob, can you speak quite loudly to your computer?
Me, yeah. People refer to it as hose piping. So what happens is you walk into a room and you say, who's over there? Oh no, there's somebody over there. There's somebody over there. And the reason why they refer to it as hose piping is, if you turn the hose pipe on and you're not holding the end of the hose, it flows around all over the place, and so it's completely random. What Kate's saying is that random filming makes you feel sick. You can't watch somebody filming something like that without feeling physically sick.
So before you start filming, there's a few things you need to do. One of the things I would always recommend when you start filming is to think about it in the framing in the same way as if you were taking a photograph. Only the big difference is that when you find the right focus point and the right exposure, you should fix it. And all phones these days have the ability to do that. So when you touch the screen to focus, if you touch it again or hold your finger on it, it usually changes color, the focus box. And so the same thing with the exposure. And this will stop it changing during your shot. Because if, for instance, somebody runs past you while you are filming, your camera will start auto-focusing and auto doing the light reading. And that doesn't look very good. It kind of focuses in and out and goes out of focus again, and it takes it 2 or 3 seconds to sort itself out. So the ideal is to fix it before you start filming when you're making short films. And then we've got a filming checklist of what you should do before you start filming, which I think Bob's going to run through.
Yeah. So the checklist is really important, and it's important to make a note of that on your phone, and you always run that through that before you start filming. So the first thing is to get a lens cleaning cloth from an optician's or something you've got with your camera. It could be soft because you don't want to scratch, but clean the lens. The problem is your phone goes in and out your pocket. And if I hold it closer, you probably see, going the wrong way, that my lens isn't particularly clean because I'm not intending to do any filming. Yeah. So clean your lens and make sure it's as clean as possible. Check that you've got enough memory. When you're filming, it uses up memory very quickly. So if you can, clear some of the things off to give you some additional space. Now, it's only a temporary thing, because when you come back, you can connect your phone straight up to a laptop or whatever it is. I mean, you may be uploading it straight away to social media. You may be connecting it to a laptop where you've got more space, external hard drive or whatever. Now, once you've copied it across and you make sure that it's safe and sound, then you can take it off the camera, because you need that space to do other things with. So check that your lens is clean, make sure you've got enough memory, make sure that you've got your battery fully charged. If you can, charge it up, maybe from a portable battery charger, right up until the moment you start filming. And in some cases, if you know that the action is going to take place, we filmed an event together recently, although we weren't together. Kate was inside the Science Museum, I was outside, so we saw each other's shots, but only via the live stream. And we knew it was going to last for a long time, so you had to have a spare battery, and you make sure that your spare battery's charged up as well. Yeah? Carry a spare battery charger if you can. Switch to airplane mode, because you don't want stuff to come in from the outside. You don't want your mum phoning up in the middle of an event and saying, "Did you remember to pick up your sandwiches?" Because it's really embarrassing for you to say, "No, sorry, Mum, I'm filming. It's really important." And I've done it. I've done it. I was going to set fire to a building, and everybody was ready, and there were 3 cameras and they were all running. And the chief fire officer said to me, look me in the eyes. I looked him in the eyes and said, are you ready to go? And I said, yes, sir, I'm ready to go. Bring, 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 bring. He said, what idiot has still got the phone on? And the idiot was me. And it was my wife phoning about the shopping. So all the big burly firemen laughed like crazy, and it helped to break the ice, but airplane mode. Check the sound, play it back. Do an instant sound recording and an instant playback and check. Fix your focus, as Kate said, and fix your exposure. If the interview was of me here now, I'm not going to move. So you don't want to be on auto so that it can move electronically and decide that it's more interested in the background than it is in me. And finally, check with the social media that you're intending to upload to orientation. If they're quite happy to accept filming with this orientation, fine. But if their requirement is that the videos have got to be shot like this, then that's the way you shoot it. And then shoot. I encourage people when I'm working face to face to have a go. Have a go, shoot something, let's look at it and let's talk about it together and see if we can improve it. You always can. There's always things that you can improve. Okay?
So we were looking at the simplest film that you should have a go at making first, which is a one-shot film that will need very little editing or treating afterwards. And that's going to be a shot of some action or a shot of maybe a demonstration or action, and then a holding on that for a moment or two, and then gently moving the camera over to where somebody is going to tell you what's happening to do a very short interview. And this is all going to be done in one take and will last about 30 seconds, at most a minute, and will be suitable for posting on social media. The only thing, so I would suggest you follow through the checklist, definitely make sure you check the sound, and film it, practice filming it, play it back. Is it good? Is the framing as good as it could be? Is the sound as good as it could be? Do it again, and maybe do it 2 or 3 times until you've got it perfect. And then what you might do is you might want to lose the very beginning and the very end if they're a bit messy. And we call this topping and tailing. And virtually all phones now allow you to do this, removing the beginning and removing the end, which is the simplest form of editing. Most of them allow you to do that these days in your phone, if you're within the camera application. And it's worth doing if your phone lets you do it. As for more complex editing, I'm going to put the name in the chat of an application that can be used, an app that can be used on both Androids and Apple iPhones, which is free, but you end up with a watermark. You know, that's where it says the name of the application, which is KineMaster. It says that on the corner of your finished film. But it's a fantastic app to learn editing on if that's something you're interested in doing, and if you're interested in making more complex films. I think we'd definitely be interested in doing you a workshop on how to do that at some later date. We'll be advertising that through the social media groups that'll be formed from people who are here today. But I'll put the name of that app in because it is free with the watermark. And it's there are some really good YouTube tutorials on how to use it. I'll put the names of them as well. And I'll put that in the chat. And I think that's about as much as we've got time for, apart from to say, just
Quick.
go out and do some filming as fast as possible.
There was one quick clip. If
Yes.
I go quickly to screen sharing, and so this is a very quick example of what Kate was talking about, topping and tailing. Right, there is some wind noise there. There is some wind noise, but basically that shot does it. But if we go back to the beginning, remember, if you can edit in camera, the first frame should be the first frame you want to see, because if we go back to the beginning, that's not very appealing. That's the shot of the road where the camera started recording. So we play it, we play it, we play it, we wait, we wait. And that's where we started, somewhere there when we were on frame. And very rapidly, because I'm conscious of time, here is a shot which I think is great.
To a tube underneath the truck in Marble Arch. So the area's been section 14 by the police, and the police standing all around me. Our tube is called Greta, and this is the very truck that she spoke from yesterday. And I'm doing this because I believe I have literally no other choice. I have worked on climate change for 15 years, and it felt urgent 15 years ago in my first job. And I will sit here until I am arrested, because I don't think we have any other way of making our point. And I see myself in the long line of amazing people who've gone before me, from the suffragettes to Gandhi to the civil rights movement, and many other people around the world who are putting their bodies and their minds and their hearts on the line to get justice.
Sam wasn't great, no choice. Framing isn't great, no choice. But the commitment. She is so emotional because she's fastened to the bottom of the truck. She's waiting, bless her, until the police come and take her away. That's the emotion that we're talking about, that you're striving to capture to make a memorable film, even if it is only 30 seconds long. Okay.